The last time Ethan had been home, the leaves were falling and the air was crisp with autumn. Now, as he sat in his car at the edge of the long gravel driveway, winter had taken over. The trees stood bare against the gray sky, and snowflakes floated lazily to the ground. The house looked just as it had in his memory, its white siding slightly weathered, a porch swing swaying gently in the cold breeze. It had been 5 years. Ethan hesitated, his fingers gripping the steering wheel. Could he really do this? Could he walk into that house and face the life he left behind? He wasn't sure why he had decided to come back. Maybe it was the Christmas card his sister Lily sent a week ago, the one with the picture of her 2 little boys, his nephews, whom he hadn't seen since they were toddlers. Or maybe it was the handwritten note on the back. "Come home, Ethan. We miss you." The truth was, he missed them too. With a deep breath, he stepped out of the car. The crunch of his boots on the snow echoed in the stillness. As he approached the front door, his heart pounded. Memories of his father's stern voice, his mother's quiet disappointment, and the fights that seemed to erupt out of nowhere flooded his mind. Ethan had left at 18, determined to escape the small-town life that he believed was suffocating him. He wanted more freedom, more opportunities, more life. He hadn't looked back, not even when his mother called, pleading for him to visit, nor when Lily told him their father was sick. By the time Ethan had decided to return, it was too late. His father was gone. He knocked on the door, the sound startling even himself. The door swung open, and there stood Lily. Her face lit up in surprise, and for a moment they just stared at each other. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Hi, Lil," he said, his voice barely audible. Before he could say anything else, she threw her arms around him. The hug was warm and tight, and Ethan felt a lump rise in his throat. "Come in," she said, pulling him inside. The house was alive with the smell of baking cookies and the sound of Christmas music playing softly in the background. It was as if nothing had changed, yet everything felt different. Ethan's mother appeared in the doorway to the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her eyes widened when she saw him, and for a moment she looked like she might cry. "Mom," he said, his voice thick. "Ethan," she said, her voice trembling, "you're here." They embraced, and Ethan felt years of guilt and regret melt away, replaced by a warmth he hadn't felt in a long time. The evening passed in a blur of laughter and stories. Lily's boys climbed all over Ethan, peppering him with questions about where he'd been and what he'd done. His mother watched from the kitchen, her face soft with a mixture of joy and relief. But as the night wore on, the unspoken tension lingered. Ethan knew he couldn't leave without addressing it. After the boys were tucked into bed, Ethan found his mother sitting by the fire, knitting a scarf. He sat down beside her, the silence heavy between them. "Mom," he began, his voice barely above a whisper, "I'm sorry for everything, for leaving, for not coming back sooner, for missing Dad." She set down her knitting and looked at him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I won't lie, Ethan. It hurt when you left, and it hurt even more when you didn't come back. But I've always understood why you left. Your father, he was hard on you, harder than he should have been." Ethan stared at the fire, the flickering flames reflecting in his eyes. I thought if I left I could escape it all. But I missed so much, Mom. I missed you. I missed Dad's last days." His mother reached for his hand, her grip firm but gentle. "Your father loved you, Ethan. He didn't know how to show it, but he was proud of you. He used to tell his friends about your job, how you made something of yourself. He kept a picture of you on his desk until the day he died." Ethan's chest tightened, and a tear slipped down his cheek. "I wish I could tell him I'm sorry." "He knew," his mother said softly. "He always knew." The next day, Ethan and Lily took the boys to pick out a Christmas tree. They trudged through the snow, laughing as the boys argued over which tree was the best. For the first time in years, Ethan felt a sense of belonging. That night, as they decorated the tree, Lily handed Ethan a small box. "What's this?" he asked. "Dad left it for you," she said, her voice tinged with emotion. We found it after he passed, but didn't know how to get it to you." Ethan opened the box to find a pocket watch. Inside the lid, engraved in his father's handwriting, were the words, "Time is precious. Don't waste it." Ethan clutched the watch, his vision blurring with tears. That Christmas, Ethan realized something he had been too blind to see before. Home wasn't about a place. It was about the people who loved you, flaws and all. He vowed never to let time slip away again.